Good afternoon. I'm just thrilled to have on the call today Andre Towner and Drew Hill, both members of the Mid-Atlantic Cooperative Baptist Fellowship Clergy Covenant Group, a very long acronym. And they've been working with the Cornelius Corps for going on about 8 years now, facilitating this group of pastors. And Andre is currently served many churches and many churches in DC area, as well as across churches in community development, and is currently pursuing a doctorate in organizational leadership and behavior. And Drew is a pastor at Memorial Baptist Church in Arlington, Virginia. So right in the middle of all sorts of fun stuff. I've been doing that for some 10 years, but I've been in the clergy group, both of them now for a few years. So welcome, and so happy to have you guys with us.
Good to be here.
Glad to be here.
First question, just to get you started. You just kind of share kind of how you got involved with the work of the Cornelius Corps and how it's evolved up till today.
Go
ahead, Andre.
All right. Yeah, we're doing a little research for this and kind of got scared with some of the numbers. But I think I first met Jim 2011. I was preparing to leave the military and transition into faith-based work. And he was facilitating a spiritual discipline course that I was taking. And at that was where he first introduced me in the class to the work of the Cornelius Corps. And it was really held up as an example of how Christian witness and practice could look outside of the traditional American Protestant model of, Sunday morning Bible study on a weekday, or typically a Wednesday evening, and a little charity or benevolent work sprinkled in. So it was that piece, and also talking about the importance of formation. A theme I remember to this day is we're always being formed by something. K Street, Wall Street, Madison Avenue, the entertainment industry. And so his challenge has always been to be an active part of that formation, because to be passive means that we give ourselves over to the other formative forces in the world. And so that has always stuck with me. And so I took some of those practices to the various congregations that I work with to develop or enhance some of the spiritual formation programs and work that we were doing. And then eventually, as I left congregational life and started working for a regional denominational body and doing community outreach work, I would often match outside groups with local communities that had needs. So whether it was tutoring kids that were struggling academically, or helping repair homes for folks that couldn't afford the repairs themselves. And what I noticed was that there was often a disconnect between the folk that were coming in to do the work or to help in the communities where they were serving.
Right.
So I struggled with finding a way to kind of bridge that gap. And so I had conversations with Jim and the Cornelius Corps and just thought back to some of the experiences I had. And so began to develop or adjust the programs to put folk in relationship before work even began. Wow. And to begin to ask questions about how this came to be. Why were these kids struggling in school? Why were these folk in need of food? And often in the DC area, and I would imagine it's the same for most of the nation, the theme of race frequently came up.
Right.
And so that has informed my work for at least the last decade. And I have, and imagine I will continue to lean on the Cornelius Corps and Jim Melson for those type of resources.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, Drew.
Yeah, I was fortunate to find the clergy peer group about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was serving here in Northern Virginia, not being native to the area, I was looking for fellowship, looking for some collegiality among clergy, and also some spiritual accountability in a group, and was invited to participate, and have just found it a tremendous blessing. Meeting Jim, and he and the group had already set a course dealing with issues of racial justice, which had always been important to me. But I learned pretty quickly how much I didn't know, and how much I was not aware of, and how many blind spots I had in my life and experience. And so the group was an invaluable help to me, not only in the resources that we considered, the books we read, the discussions we had, the conversations, certainly the collegiality. I don't know that I've been in a group where I felt any more commitment to one another than I do in this group. And Jim sets the tone for that. You know, he's a wonderful facilitator, and he's terrific at facilitating a group of pastors is not the easiest thing in the world. Everybody has no shortage of opinions, and thoughts, and but he does a very gracious job, and he doesn't speak often, but when he speaks, he has something to say, and his insights have been extremely helpful to me. And usually that's when I find new perspective. This is when I find I find my own blind spots exposed, and so it's been very helpful. I've invited Jim to come and participate. We have Sundays from time to time devoted to the issue of religion and race, and Jim came and spoke and had interaction with my people, and then really through the influence of the group, I took a sabbatical in 2019 and based that sabbatical on the relationship between religion and race. Did extensive amount of reading and followed the U.S. Civil Rights Trail across the country and over a couple of weeks, and had a tremendous experience from that. And then began a writing project that was in 2019 that I've just now completed this last fall. That's going to be published next spring.
Really?
And so it's just had a large impact on my life and ministry, and we've continued to do book clubs in our church. We've had special focuses in different ways. We've used curriculum in different ways, but it seems like during COVID, the book club model, the online book club, seems to have really caught on. And so I've done, I think I'm on my fifth book club that I've done in our congregation, and some of my staff have done some as well. And so it's been very, very vital and important to me. As always, anytime you're talking about racial justice, you're going to experience some pushback, right, and some people who just want to change the subject, and I've run into that in my congregation just as surely as any other, as it would happen in any other congregation. And I think that's vital. I think that's it's a subject that has to be addressed, and yes, and the nature of things, I'm not sure you ever address it without some kind of pushback. It would be nice if there was some idealized context where that didn't happen, but I don't think it is. And then as far as in our group, I would say it's a great gift for people like Andre and Sam and others to participate in the group, because they know most of what we're talking about. They've lived it. They've experienced it. It's not new to them. And yet they condescend to participate to help us learn and to help us grow, help the rest of us to gain insights and wisdom in that. And I'm sure it's wearisome. Andre, I don't know if you want to share that in this, but I'm sure it's wearisome to scratch your head at some of us Anglo pastors and think, man, where have these guys been living? Where have they been living their whole lives? Not to be farther along in this way, but it's been a tremendous blessing, and I have such regard for the Cornelius Corps, and think that it's certainly a very vital part of kingdom work in this area, and I am so grateful to have come upon it.
Well, that's wonderful. And Andre, if you wouldn't mind responding to the question Drew had, just what does it feel like from your perspective to be involved in this conversation, and as he would say, as long, seemingly how long it takes.
Sure. That was overall. This has been being involved in the Covenant group has been a fantastic experience, both to learn, to share my experiences. There have been times where some of the reading material, the experiences, was like, yeah, I knew that in high school, or, I just assumed some of that was secondhand knowledge. But I understand the importance and the reality that kind of our current structures and systems are these lessons, and this information isn't incorporated into the current formative practices of America, the church in America. So the average American, without some intentionality, isn't exposed to this. So recognize that. And so I understood and appreciated that. And then something that was really helpful was a frequent refrain from Jim is that kind of the acknowledgement of what we just said, but then also saying that it wasn't the task of the African-American members of the group to kind of teach or share or get folk up to speed, acknowledging that we continue to struggle with these issues in real time. And so he's been really intentional about not adding another layer of work on top of what we're already experiencing. And
Right.
So that has been somewhat refreshing and new in kind of faith-based spaces that discuss race that I've experienced.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I want to thank you both just for your time. Just brilliant for 10 minutes here, or whatever it's been. But I also want to thank you both for expanding the core. Part of the challenge we have moving forward as Jim moves to actual retirement, and on that the core still has its mission intact, and there's going to be other leaders who are spreading it. So we just thank you for being at the front end of that and pointing the way, and just appreciate how meaningful it's been in both of your journeys.
You bet.
Thank you for allowing us to be a part of it.
You bet. Thank you.
See you guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye.